are given some input. I know some members have said, hey, they just want to stand and wave their hand, and I've asked some to come on up. So if you would raise your hand or stand up, and if you're maybe Mr. Davis, Mr. Vargas, Ms. Jansen, if you come up, I think both Michelle and Deborah have said that they're happy to wave their hand. And maybe you can take some seats up here. We've also had, Mr. Neely is on that committee, as well as Mr. Heberly has come by to give input and to participate. We've had several meetings to flesh this idea out. What I'd like to do is introduce the people before you here, and also have Mr. Vargas introduce himself. Ms. Jansen is our CTE coordinator. She's also the principal at Lincoln Tech Academy. Mr. Davis, Jim Davis, is the principal at Middle College High School. He is still bathing in the glow of academic decathlon victory, as was announced by Dr. Washer earlier. And Mr. Vargas is from Delta College, and I thought I'd have Salvador introduce himself and just to tell a little bit about the college's perspective on this project.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate this. Good evening, President of the board members, Dr. Walsh. So Delta College is very excited to be doing this, and let me tell you why we're very excited. Not only is my excitement, but it's Delta College as a whole is excited about this. When Jim went to a conference not that long ago, he came back very excited about some things, and we talked about it and said, Jim, I don't necessarily agree with some of your ideas, but yeah, this is a really great idea. I said, one of those things that we hardly ever come across where everything aligns. And in our conversation, we're thinking about what possibilities there would be to expand the Middle College High School. And I said, well, at Delta College, we have some difficulties in terms of facilities, in terms of classes. So is there something different that we can think of? And in that conversation, this thing about robotics came up. And I said, guess what? We just developed an entire program with associate degrees. It's here, it's approved, the Chancellor's Office has approved it, and it's alive. And we need students. And what you're telling me is that we can work with you in developing a pathway from high school to this program. And I said, let me give you more news. But Bakersfield College is one of 13 community colleges that was giving and granted the ability to give a bachelor's degree. As you know, the community college system does not grant bachelor's degrees, but only 13 community colleges do. Bakersfield College is one of them. And guess what their bachelor's degree is in? Automation and robotics. And we just were granted the articulation from Delta College to Bakersfield College to transfer all our classes completely and have the student just complete the 2 more years that they have for a bachelor's degree. So I think we have all the alignment that we need, and we're very, very excited to be able to do this. And we thought we had to think about this. We were thinking maybe 21, 22, maybe 22, 23. And, Jeff, bless his heart, came to me and says, I think we're talking about fall 19. And I said, okay, we're ready. We're ready, and we're ready to start. My job, again, my name is Salvador Vargas, is as Dean of Career Technical Education and Workforce Development. And my job is to make sure that our students locally stay here and they find jobs. We need to find them the right jobs, and automation and robotics is one of those areas that we're missing. And I'm very excited to be able to support that effort and to be able to engage with Lodi and to do something that nobody else is doing in the state. So we're going to be a very unique program. I think that if we are successful, and I don't have any doubts that we will, this is going to be a model for the rest of the state. Thank you.
And at the risk of, don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, I do want to just acknowledge Delta College. Their partnership is essential for programs like this. They're a big get in our world. And it's not lost on me that Delta College could work with any school district. They could work with any even charter school. And so the collaboration with our district, building on the success of Middle College, building on the energy and excitement that not only the board has expressed over time with the Middle College program and looking at opportunities like this, I think this is a real opportunity to make some magic. Now you can wave a wand, but you actually need some details, some nuts and bolts. And so the presentation that we put before you lays those out. A couple of highlights that I'll point out from the executive summary. Not only did we form that steering committee, we've met multiple times. We're moving on 10 or 15 meetings, not for the whole committee, but with sub-meetings and side meetings and other meetings to make sure that we have as many details fleshed out as possible. We have a proposed enrollment plan, an education plan that we have started to develop with Delta College related to how a school day might work, access to classes on their campus, even their offer to send professors to our campus so that students could fulfill that AS pathway. It's sometimes hard to get all the classes they need on the Delta College campus. They'd even be willing to send professors out our way so that our students can accomplish that. We have met with Dr. Washer, Chelsea, and others. We've been talking about a publicity and communication strategy to make sure that's established as we move forward. We are drafting out an MOU with Delta College to get all of this in writing and seal the deal. We've identified a staffing timeline. And we are looking at all kinds of logistics, and the board brought this up last time. Things like, what about transportation? There was a question at the last meeting: is there a draft budget? Some way we can sink our teeth into what we're looking at from a financial standpoint, and other questions, about facility and logistics that we're still working on. We've included some next steps and a timeline so that we could make sure we hit the right types of benchmarks to pull this project off. And with that, any thoughts, any comments? Julie's expertise is in CTE, and she could talk about the CTE pathway that we would be proposing. Obviously, Mr. Davis knows all things middle college and some of the unique features about the schedule and how that works with Delta College. But we're really here for you to get more feedback and to be available to you. Thank you. Okay. Any comments from the board? Sure. Go ahead.
Mr. Palmquist.
Yes.
This is really exciting. Good stuff. And the fact of collaborating with Delta College, thank you very much. Just a couple things. How are we scheduling? Like high school kids are making their schedules now, 7th, 8th grade. How are you combating that? Is it on the list of courses?
So the courses we would need to offer, the only courses that aren't in the course catalog would be the Delta College courses, so they don't need to be in our course catalog. Okay. We would offer, in the day, we would offer core classes, right, just like we would anywhere else. I think the unique feature would be integration with some of the computer science and robotics into those core areas, but the class themselves, they already exist on our books. And as we develop new courses, we would go through curriculum council and get them into the course.
And how many students you project or have an idea?
So it's a little bit flexible. What we put forward in the proposed enrollment plan was starting with 30 at 7th grade, 30 at 8th grade, 30 at 9th grade. There has been a push from some on the committee to say, hey, maybe we can be a little bit more aggressive. Starting anything later than 9th grade gets really difficult when students have already been in high school getting classes over. So we want to build the program over a 4-year period. So it will start with a minimum of 90 students, and if we have enough interest, we can talk about expanding that a little bit, and then we will grow that program over time. And I think, at a minimum, it'll be, close to 250 students, but there is the flexibility based on the information that we pull in, the data from the success of the program, interest in the public, board direction. There's the possibility to scale it up even higher.
Now, when you use the word robotics, and I guess this question is for you because you're the expert, could you define that for me? Is it coding, engineering, all of the above?
All of the above.
Oh, outstanding. Very exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, Jeff, on transportation, we'll have a group here at Lodi, and then we can transport them to Delta. Is that correct?
So the plan that we're looking at right now is there would be no school-to-home transportation. However, the students would come to our campus. What we're projecting for high school right now would be like 8 to 1 o'clock. And then what we would provide is from site to site, from the Lodi Unified site to Delta College, one-way transportation.
Right.
And then school-to-home transportation is still the obligation, of our families, as is at middle college and some of our other programs.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Neely?
First of all, compliments, Jeff, on that committee meeting. Great job on that. A lot of things came out, and we're moving forward on this with the board approval, so great job. I'm in favor of boosting that 9th grade a little bit, and I brought that up during getting possibly a few more 9th grade students in there. So if that's possible, I think that'd be a great idea. Also, I brought up at the meeting, and I want to keep pushing this. is that the curriculum that we use for these students, it needs to be an all-digital curriculum. That way the teachers that are out there can modify that curriculum to fit the specific things. Example, an English teacher could use that basis on the digital curriculum and add to it things that are specific to robotics. So I would like to see that. Also, I think we need to start looking immediately for some corporate grants on this. Somebody needs to get active on that, because I'm telling you, I'm sure there are some corporations out there that would love to get behind something like this, especially that collaboration with Delta College. Digital equipment, we're going to have to look at something a little more potent than Chromebooks. Okay, it's got to be something a little bit stronger than that. So that's going to be a cost. You've taken care of that in your budget, though, right? And then, final comment I'm going to make on this for right now is, to me, I think it's very important that this academy looks like our district looks. Now, how we're going to accomplish that, I don't know. But I want to throw that out there. It's got to look like our district looks, okay? Let's keep that in mind as we start getting students, as we start moving forward on this. That's all I have.
Any other comments? I'm going to follow up on that. On Mr. Neely's comment, is there criteria for enrollment?
No, the criteria is really, the committee felt very strongly that this needs to be open to every single student who wants to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Great.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Stanley.
I think everybody knows I'm a real proponent of CTE and STEM. I think that's the way of the future. It is not a glitzy flash in the pan. It's a reality of converting whatever you do, whatever your path is, to a job, because that's kind of where we're headed with teaching kids, and that's why it's college and career. Well, there's a lot of different paths in leading your career. So, this is to me huge. One of the things that comes to mind when you talk about robotics is people are thinking, oh, they're building a little robot. Well, okay, sure, that could be part of it, but if you go to a manufacturing facility, they got like really big robots. You're shaking your head. I mean, that's how they make stuff. So the operators need to have a level of understanding of what they're trying to operate. And also you have to have people that know how to maintain them. So you've got the maintenance side of that. Through our work with the Lodi District Chamber of Commerce, we have a group called PI, Partners in Education. And I want to bring that up because they're business people. And it's kind of funny, it struck me the first time we're meeting, they're going, what do you want, what do you need, when can we do it? I mean, it was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And also the Lodi Industrial Group, which is attached to the Chamber of Commerce. These are people that are trying to get a workforce, and you said workforce development. There are jobs out there, we all know that. And this is more than just tinkering and making a little robot walk or roll or whatever. That's how it starts, that's where you need to do, because let's face it, kids love building stuff, they love working with their hands. And that in itself gives you kind of a basic knowledge of how things operate, troubleshooting, materials, all of that. So it's quite a bit broader than just what maybe some people think when you say robotics. I did want to make a comment about Delta College. What an absolutely great asset for our region. I can't stress it enough that is a great school. And so anytime we could work together with Delta, I mean, we used to do a lot of courses at our comprehensive high schools that were Delta courses, whether it be government or English or whatever, And I hope that our bond will grow from here into additional things that would mutually be beneficial. And that kind of leads me into articulation. There's a sequence that I see in this whole plan of how do we tie middle school, high school into college, or Delta College, and then into Bakersfield. Is that the one we're working, okay? You know, they used to have a deal, I think it was Stanislaus, that was kind of a, you know, if you follow this path here at Delta College, you will have guaranteed admissions to Stanislaus. So whether it's Stanislaus or whatever, as long as those things are known, it really helps kids move along and progress quickly so that it's actually because a lot of times you have to do overs, and do-overs are pricey. So all of that is great. Now on the concern side, when I first heard of this, I met with Mr. Palmquist, and my main concern was I don't want this academy to destroy what we're already building at our middle schools and high schools in the way of CTE and STEM courses. Sure, some are middle school elective courses or those kinds of things. And there are a couple of middle schools that have them. The one right around the corner from where I live is Lodi Middle School. And they thought, you know, let's see if we can, anybody interested in a robotics club. In like 2 days, they had 60 kids. So the interest is there. And of course, it was an after-school program, so those things then kind of moved into trying to build stuff within their day, as in the way of electives. Whether it's, what am I trying to say, entrepreneurship or manufacturing and those kinds of things. And that blends into where they leave middle school and go to high school. I didn't want anything to detract from what we're building there. So I'm very happy to hear that we need to stay focused on that as far as I'm concerned. We don't want to tear down or minimize or eliminate. This is another option that would help grow kids' opportunities to that. So let's keep focused on that building without destroying.
I might add something just because it's very pertinent. Please report the Lodi Middle School Robotics Club actually beat some high schools at a competition, I think, this past weekend. The principal reported that to me. They were beating the high schools, so that program is alive and well.
And that's great. That's my point exactly. You know, let's keep building instead of minusing. So, and you did reassure me, and it's in some of the paperwork also, that there are efforts and grants or whatever that we're trying to expand that in our middle schools, and I think that's tremendous. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Well, I'm not finished. Okay. I want to say something. I like everything about this, and one of the things I liked in particular, the statement you made, was it keeps the students in the community. And that's what I commented on this, I think, at the last board meeting, that we desperately need a state college in this community. We export sometimes our best students someplace else, and many of them do not come back. This keeps the kids in the community. And when you said that Bakersfield College gives a bachelor's degree, you're talking about Bakersfield Junior College, not Cal State.
Correct.
Bakersfield Junior College, JC, is one of my alma maters. So, okay. Any other comments? Good job. Yeah.
So what's the next step? You need something from us?
So the next steps are laid out. You'll be getting a MOU before you, and then I also know that there's a draft budget and some other concerns there. But you'll have an MOU to execute.
MOU, has it gone in front of the Delta board yet?
We're in the process of reviewing the MOU.
Okay.
We just received the draft, and my president and vice president are reviewing that at this time.
Okay, so you don't need anything else from us at this moment?
Not tonight.
Mr. Caxton, Mr. Neely, members of the board, later on the agenda is a report on one-time money, and you will see that this will resurface on that because the budget is reflected in the proposal for the one-time money. What we are hearing is that you're very interested in this, and we would like to continue moving forward. So I guess what we need tonight is, yes, you are interested in us pursuing this and moving forward, even though we don't have your formal approval at this point. That'll come later with the MOU, but you're giving us direction to keep pursuing this.
I think that's accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any comments from the public? Okay. Come on up, please.
Can we have your name, please?
Can
we have your name, please?
I'm sorry, my name is Lynn Locke.
Thank you.
Like we were saying before, we will serve every single student who has interest, and so that staffing is usually determined based on the student need.
Good evening. One thing that we did talk about that I don't see on here, but want to make sure we're reassured that an MOU also with Teacher Leah and the district for staff.
Yeah, good point. Any other comments? Student comments?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm in the CT, I'm in the Administration of Justice, and I think it's a great opportunity for people because my Administration of Justice is probably the second best class that I've ever taken in high school, second only to student government. The experiences and the teaching I've had from my teachers has just been amazing. So I think having this course would really help a lot of students who are interested in it.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Were you at the open house at Lincoln Tech?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't able to make it.
I've seen you somewhere before. And it was attached to Lincoln Tech.
Okay, thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, consent agenda A. Do you have a motion? Or first, any items want to be pulled?
Yeah, Mr. Connect said, I'd like to pull item A3 for some discussion.
Item A3.
I have one.
And
I would like to pull item A4 for question.
A4. And I have a motion for the rest of them. Okay, I have first and second.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have, Michelle, do you have something else to say?
A6.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so now we have a first and second for A1, 2, and 5. Okay, call for the... Did we have a first and second?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Do you have?
I have a A2 too as well. Pull A2.
I nominate.
George, you did?
Second.
So basically, everything, only A1 is the only one we're not talking about.
A1 and A5 are not.
And A5, oh yeah, here.
Yeah, hold on.
Yes, it is. Oh. Okay, call for the vote then for items A1 and A5. Didn't vote, I guess I forgot to ask you if you agreed to that. So you have, okay, before we post it, vote aye? Okay, thank you. Where's those career and technical education people?
Yeah. Not liking me at all. Can I just say I vote aye? No.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. No, that works. I'm gonna log out. Yeah. Sorry, folks. I had to walk. No.
Well, I guess.
He's on, well, we're writing down the phone.
Still says welcome on. You don't have my vote.
There you go. Okay. First item I want to look at is item A2. Who pulled that?
I was one.
Okay, what's that?
I have a couple questions for Mr. Khan. First of all, I noticed that we have a great deal of hotels. Is that correct, in A2, under the warrants?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that. Is there any way that we can get a partnership with, say, the Marriott, anything like that? Because I noticed on 129, there was the Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas for $4,600 that we had a one-time ballot for, warrant for. And there were others. And I'm wondering if we can get a contract, say through Marriott, Hilton, something like that, or get some type of rack rate.
We're looking through
Those issues. My other one with concern was AT&T. Do we get a partnership with them at all?
Some of the AT&T bill will be paid by E-rate as well, but AT&T is a large provider of our internet.
Have we ever shopped it against Verizon or anything else?
I believe we have.
Okay, you believe we have?
Well, it won't, I don't believe it's called Verizon. I think it has another name, but it's a competitive bid for our internet.
Now, who gets cell phones in our district?
Mostly administrators, but not all.
When you use the word administrator, could you be more definitive?
Well, it's, at one point last year, there was a discussion at Cabinet about providing cell phones to all administrators. The decision was made that that could happen, but it would have to be at site budget's expense. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but we could certainly show you the report.
Yeah, but again, I asked you, when you say administrators, that's a broad definition. Are you talking about just site?
Well, again, we have administrators all over the district that use their own phones and administrators that use district phones.
So is there any protocol for that, or what?
Generally speaking, upper level directors and cabinet members have district phones, principals have district phones.
That's a pretty large bill. The other one was Staples. Do we get any rack rate with them, or is it strictly whatever they
I
pay?
believe that's a negotiated rate, so that's a just-in-time contract.
Because I know that when I use Staples, I simply pick and choose off their website, handed that into my department head, who then placed the order. Is there, then that's something that happens at billing or how purchasing?
Well, the prices received are obtained through piggyback contracts, which are negotiated contracts. So we would have, given the general or the sum total of orders that occur throughout the year, we would have to go to competitive bid on those items. So generally, school districts will engage in piggyback contracts or consortiums of school districts purchasing section.
And who handles that? Is that purchasing that handles that?
Purchasing will actually get us signed up with the piggyback organizations, but any lead agency can create a piggyback organization. Monterey County Office of Ed is a big one for items like furniture and that type of thing.
Okay. My concern is, let's say that I, as a teacher, turn in my order to my department head chair at this high school course. Then what happens?
It goes through the requisition process.
Which is?
Well, a requisition is a request to purchase.
I know, but it goes through what people?
At the site level, principal would have to sign off.
Doesn't the principal secretary have to sign off?
Well, it's the principal secretary
And then the
could
principal?
sign off as designee.
Okay.
For principal.
And then, once that happens, it gets transferred over to purchasing?
It could, or it could go, if it's a large enough purchase, it could go to one of the cabinet members, Mr. Palmquist or
And then did they call back sometimes to the people that ordered and check to see why they ordered what they ordered?
I'm sure they do on some issues, but generally speaking, that's purchasing's job to try and catch items that should not be ordered.
It should not be. Okay.
Like
What's
we
the
can't
timeline on
make
something?
these
What's the
bugs.
timeline on something like that?
For a requisition?
Yes.
If it's a clean requisition, it can be a week. If there are issues with the requisition.
Have we ever interviewed the department heads and see how long it's taken for them to get their requisitions turned in correctly?
I have not personally.
Okay. And then getting back, I'm just curious, who went to Caesar's Palace and spent $5,000?
That was Needham Elementary School's PLC group.
PLC?
Professional learning community.
No, I know the
We've
term
had several-
means.
we've had several schools go to that particular conference,
They stayed at Caesar's?
or wherever it is, and typically it is at Caesar's.
I'd like to go next year, please. Thank you. Just curious. Thank you very much, Mr. Khan, I appreciate that.
Okay, any comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve item 2.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Student vote. Okay, board vote. Items approved 7-0. Next item that's pulled was item A3.
Like I said, just a question about items 2 and 3 on that list for contracts. Lisa, you're on the blame line on both of those. Can you explain a little bit what those are about? And if this is a lengthy process, we can always shelve this.
No, it's really easy.
Okay.
Item number 3 is a contract with Jump Into English, which is several of our Title I school sites are using it to teach our parents English. They have classes, they hold classes. I think we have about 6 schools that have contracted with this organization to deliver English classes after school.
That's 3, right?
That's item number 3.
Okay. If you remember, shoot me when one of those will be. I'd love to see it.
You want the dates of it?
Yeah, if you get.
Sure, okay.
Thank you.
And then item number 2 is the Improve Your Tomorrow organization. We're contracting with them through our Title IV. We wrote a Title IV grant in the fall and we were awarded that grant. And it offers, they're going to be working with our students at McNair and Delta Sierra with counseling and guidance. And I think I can turn it over to Mr. Palmquist if he's here, if he wants to give more information about what that organization will do for our students. But it's a contract that will go to the end of the year, and then again, and we'll do more services in the
And
fall.
it'll go through the summer as well.
Yes.
right? Okay, that's all I need. Jeff, I'll talk to you about that later. Okay. That's all I've got for it.
Okay. Public comments.
Yeah, I was going for
We also had questions on item 2. I spoke to Lisa before the meeting about 2 and 3, and my understanding was 3 was for 3 schools or 6 schools?
6 schools.
Okay. And then item 2, I was concerned, I know that Mr. Palmquist has talked about intervention and some of the intervention programs for counseling and for parents, students, mentoring. We did talk briefly about the meeting, and it is something that we've discussed in detail that needs, especially for certain subgroups at Delta Sierra and McNair. So we look forward to seeing this go forward.
Okay, student comments? All right, how about now? Oh, we got it, okay, we got it. Okay, all right, we got a first and second. Student vote? And board vote. Amelia and Kava. There we go. And Passed 7-0. Item 4 is Mr. Hebley.
Just a quick question. This is to advertise to solicit bids for the Joe Sterner relocation project. What is the timeline for this process to actually get what we need done?
I'll stipulate that we do not have DSA approval as yet, but our architect believes that's forthcoming as soon as February 25th. From that point, it'll go through a bid process. One of the big issues is how much work we can get done while school is in session. If that's 0, then we're going to be on a pretty tight timeline. And the architect is reserved all the way up to July 29th for delivery. If we can effect work while kids are still in school, we can move that delivery date back. We certainly can't move the Cerner portables until school's out. But what we hope we can do, and right now that's not in the architect's critical path, but we hope to alter that is hopefully we can at least do the site work at Cerner so that when the portables are free to be picked up, we can just go get them and drop them.
Thank you. And with that, motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any comments? Student vote?
Aye.
Board vote? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, with that, now we're moving on to A5.
That's passed. A6.
Oh.
A6, Leo.
Yeah.
Item A6. I did 5, sorry.
I believe time before last, we had someone else resign from the Measure L committee. My understanding is there are 7 members that are needed for the oversight bond. In looking up online, the Measure L, 2017-18 and 18-19, there's no report online. I don't know if it's just our website hasn't caught up to those documents. But I'm concerned with how do we make sure that we have 7 members for overseeing that bond and making sure that we have up-to-date materials on the reports to us. So going forward, I saw an ad for for 2 open positions. Are we advertising somewhere in the community for those members?
Are we putting those on our website and on also on Facebook? Maybe.
If I may, we've had 3 members drop on the Measure L committee. We did pick up 1. Actually, we had 2. We picked up 1, and then Ms. Tal offered her resignation. We do have 1 application in right now, and we're trying. I even approached a parent in the audience. The board may recall we had a lot of no quorums in the Measure L group last year, so it's up.
So is that why we might not have the report for the fiscal year for some?
It's just that it hasn't been posted. The report was offered to the board in June of 2018 last year.
Okay.
Both Measure U and Measure L. It's a little.
It just hasn't gone up because of, and I understand trying to make everything ADA compliant online.
It is on the
It is
board
there.
agenda, so we'll.
The board, June's board agenda. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other public comments?
Chairman, I move we approve A6.
Second.
Okay, first and second, student vote?
Aye.
Board vote? Motion passes 7-0. All right, let's go on to consent agenda B.
Chairman, I move we approve student discipline cases as Third, agenda B.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. There are no public or student comments on this. So I'm calling for the board vote. Okay, and that passes 7-0. Other action items. Other action item number 1, California School Board Association Delegate Assembly Election. The ballot for the 2019 Delegate Assembly, Subregion 8A, which is San Joaquin County, is presented. The board may vote for up to 2 candidates, and the list is Eric Duncan from Manteca, George Neely from Lodi, Christopher Osei from Ripon, and Courtney Porter from Lodi.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I move that we vote for Mr. Neely and Mr. Porter.
Second.
Okay. Have a first and second. Any comments? Call for the vote. Pass. That passes 7-0. Okay. Other action item number 2, resolution for the 2019 through 24, the hiring of short-term classified employees for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, President Knackstead, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. Board may recall that we had a difficult school opening in the summer of 2017 with several HVACs going down. One of the responses that business services had to rectify that in the summer of 2018 was hiring of a single short-term classified employee who was familiar with our emergency management system. This employee began, I believe, around late March of last year and spent his days on the emergency management system, testing every single one of our HVACs that were connected to the system. I believe they identified over 30 problems in HVACs throughout the district and were able to fix those during the early parts of June, test them, and by the time school returned, and the extended school year, students as well in June were cool and dry. So,
Comment?
Any comments?
Yes.
Mr. Hibley?
You stole my thunder. I was going to bring up 2017 start of school. It was hot and miserable for a lot of people. And noting that as problem resolution, we did what you just said, is got people starting on repairing those and testing them before the kids and teachers arrived, and it was a huge difference. It may not have been 100%, but it was a huge difference from what I'm told. So that was a good move. I love problem resolution and fixing problems. That's just great. So with that, I would motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Public? Students? All right. Board vote then. Oh wait, student vote. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Board vote. And it passes 7-0. Mr. McKillian, you have personnel matters for us to consider?
Mr. President, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve personnel matters.
Second.
Any comments from the board? Public? Okay, students don't get to vote on this, so calling for the board vote, please. Passes 7-0. Okay, communications from student reps. Taylor, you're up.
Dr. Washer, President Knackstead, members of the board, thank you for having me tonight. Recently, Bear Creek has had great success in our crab feed that was held February 9th. We had a lot of people there. All of them had a great time. Raffle prizes were awesome, and we made a lot of money from tickets sold and also just people being at the crab feed, so we're very happy to put that on. Our Winterfest rally and game was held back in January. That was a success as well. We had a lot of people at that game. And Sadie's dance that was held by our link crew team was also very successful amongst her fellow classmates. Some special student and staff accomplishments, like mentioned before at our last meeting that we were here, the college signing event held by Avid is happening April 23rd, and that's to, how do I explain it? It's just to kind of give recognition to students who are signing with colleges or just going on to universities or any type of college, just to give them recognition and congratulate them for their accomplishments. Student Gov is currently working on our upcoming events such as prom, our goodbye rally, and graduation. The closest one coming up is our international rally and carnival. I'm proud to say that I'm in charge of our international events on campus, and it would be an honor for any of you to come to our rally that night and see the culture and everything we have going on campus at Bear Creek.
Repeat the date?
The date for international rally is March 29th. There's a early rally and a late night rally. The early rally will start at 4:30, doors will open at 4:15ish, and then the night rally starts at 7:30.
Thank you. Can we get that?
I will make sure to send something out that you guys get, and then what is this?
That rally has some history.
The girls basketball. Okay. Did they win? 76-30. Girls won.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
no seat.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any comments?
I just did, I saw him just there.
Okay, Michaela, Lodi High School.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, Dr. Washer, I would just like to say last week's, Lodi High has hosted the Lodi Unified Basketball Championships, and let me just say that was such a success. Seeing all those special needs kids so happy, like just to have that recognition from all their fellow peers, and it was an honor to like be on the sidelines to cheer for them as a cheerleader myself, and it was a very big success, I will say that. Student government elections are coming up this next week. This week we have our FFA. We are having FFA is being recognized this week, so we're having a spirit week for them. Every 15 minutes will be held on February 28th and March 1st. The ASVAB exam took place on February 13th. We will be having on March 5th, we will be having our Block L and Gold Pin ceremony for those who maintain a 3.8 or higher at Lodi High School. We are preparing for the 8th grade parent night on February 28th. Clubs will be setting up tables with information. The AP exam sign-up deadline will be February 28th, and upcoming activities and events, we will be having our 70s themed Sadie's Dance March 1st. Blood drive will be taking place on April 4th, and the Science Olympiad regional competition will be March 2nd. Thank you.
Did you say Sadie's dance?
Yes, the Sadie Hawkins dance.
Sadie Hawkins, okay.
Yeah, and the girls ask the guys.
You can
Thank
go ask
you.
Taylor all about that. But history of Sadie Hawkins?
That's an old.
Didn't I give you?
I don't know the history of it.
I thought I gave you,
Little Abner.
all right.
I know what it
He knows what it is, but not where it came from.
I'll bring you information next time.
All these people will know they're much older than I.
Okay, employee groups. LEA, CSEA, anybody? All right, well, you sure you gotta get faster.
Sit in the front row.
It's been a hard week.
I know. I know.
Good evening, President Knackstead, members of the board. Please look forward to lots of invitations because Read Across America is happening right around the corner. I know it was one of my favorite times as a classroom teacher to enlist all of you to come out and read in classrooms. So I hope you take those invitations seriously. Currently, Leah has high school scholarships out at each of the high schools for high school seniors who are looking at going into teaching. And we also are accepting applications for RBET committee members to fulfill those that are going out. A couple of things that you mentioned tonight that I think as we look at money and support as we go into budget, that money for things that you support and think of value. And many times those things are being, a lot of effort, work, energy is expended by your classroom teachers. For example, science camp. Those 5th and 6th grade teachers that take their students to science camp do hours upon hours upon hours of fundraising, and then sometimes end up coming to you to beg here or with Got Kids for a donation to help go. If this is something that we really think is valuable for every student, I think we should really look at what those costs are and maybe coming back to this board as we look at reinstating some of the things that went away in 2008. The other is Science Olympiad. I heard the comments. It is, and you know, as a mom and a teacher doing Science Olympiad, we never had the manpower for Science Olympiad at my home site, but as a parent, I participated in coaching. If that's something that we want to do, remember that your teachers are professionals and we should pay them for their time going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other comments from employee groups? Okay. Dr. Wash, you have a comment?
Mr. President, Board, one more announcement for you. On March 5th is our Ag Venture Day. Many of you have gone to that in the past. It is a huge community-wide event with lots of ag-related activities and lessons for all of our 3rd grade students. It is quite amazing. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to go out to the Great Festival grounds on March 5th. It's happening all day long. You can see some fantastic things.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Katowski, you have a report on the LCAP, an update, executive summary update.
President Knackstead, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, yes, I do have a very brief update on the LCAP. If you want to learn, turn to the executive summary. Basically, no, go back. Thank you. Basically, what you have received was all the input that we have gathered through our LCAP committee meetings. That would be our English Learner LCAP committee and our regular LCAP committee members. I think we met twice since the beginning of the school year. We held 3 community forums. We, at this point in time when this was prepared, we had met with 1 bargaining unit. We have 3 now scheduled between here and the end of February. So at the next time you'll be getting some more information from our bargaining units. We shared some information from Curriculum Council and we did a staff and student survey. That's all is included, and now we're just here to receive direction and guidance from you. We'll come back, hopefully, I know we won't have another meeting in March, but we'll give you the rest of the information that we've gathered later on. So I'm open for questions and guidance.
Just kind of scanning those suggestions, because there were a lot of them, and they were really very well done, I thought. Which kind of led me to ask the question, so with all that good input, how do we bring it forward to try to pick and choose and implement?
That's a very good question, because in the past we've
Thank you.
we have done some prioritizing at the committee meetings, and we've asked committee members to prioritize, and then we brought them to you as a group of this is what the 2 committees recommended. We've also asked board members to prioritize, and sometimes that works and sometimes that is a struggle. So, and I am reluctant to do any prioritizing because I really feel my role is to bring it all to you and get some direction from you about what is included and what isn't included. And I also know who comes to all the meetings, so it's kind of not fair for me to give too much input.
So those other employee group meetings are coming soon, so
Yes.
I'm not sure if we should, I'm not comfortable giving any kind of thought or direction until we get that input too, but, I mean, we're open to whatever.
Yeah, I have one scheduled for Thursday and then one scheduled for next Tuesday. And I will share with you what, as I shared in the last one when we met with LTBA, I shared the information that we received. So I will share that with you and then come back with get more direction.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Porter?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Good, good. I don't envy your job. You have so many things you have to do. It's incredible what you do, by the way. I have a couple questions. First of all, you said you had, this is what you came up with from all your meetings.
Mm-hmm.
What was your input? What were the number of people involved?
And on each input page, you'll see most of them we indicate at the bottom of the input, the attachments, how many teachers, how many parents, what the representation was. I can tell you off the top of my head, I think Mrs. McFarland attended one. Only our committee meetings are well attended, with meeting we had 20 or some odd people.
Right.
Community forums, and well, our bargaining units are well attended, but we usually get 5 or 6 at the very most.
So do you feel that the parental input, community input is low?
I would like to take it from this point of view, that if people were not happy with the direction that we were doing, they will come out in force. You saw them come out at our last board meeting when the Houston parents came and said, we don't like what you're doing. So they're not coming out in force, so I'd like to take that as a positive, that the direction that we're doing with our LCAP meets their needs.
This is kind of one of my areas that I'm kind of bugaboo about, is getting more community input on our LCAP.
Mm-hmm.
And have we looked at schools that are successful with it and what they're doing, like providing childcare, food, raffle tickets?
Yes.
We've looked at all that?
We have.
Have we done all that?
We've talked to different districts. We offer childcare at our meetings. We don't offer food. I guess we could offer food.
You have.
We have at our committee meetings, but not at our community forums or all of that kind of thing. We've asked sites to make sure that their school site council parent is in attendance. We've done a lot of things, and it ebbs and flows. We get a lot of interest, and then the next time we don't.
Right.
If I could be very honest,
Sure.
sometimes I think it's a little hard for them to understand and process. If they haven't been in on the game since way back in 13, 14, it's really hard for them.
Now, if I was a parent and I showed up at your LCAP meeting, what would I expect?
You would be asked to look at some documents, like we showed the surveys at the last meeting. We showed the parent and student and teacher surveys, and we asked them to give us, give them time to look at that and give us their input about what do they see as successes or challenges based on the input received.
But getting back to like our clientele, have we gone and visited schools with similar clientele? Maybe their background, similar backgrounds in terms of the parents?
I have not.
Have you looked at the demographics of what we deal with? Because maybe just showing them LCAP, they don't know what it means. It might be something that they just think is foreign, and why get involved?
I think it's not just indicative of Lodi. I think it's throughout the state.
Okay.
Because the state has come out with a new parent involvement piece for the LCAP to make the LCAP a little more understandable for parents.
Sure.
So we've been showing that. So based on their reaction, it has to be statewide that parents are not turning out their votes. I would say that we might have, I shouldn't say that. No, I won't say that. So I think it's just an issue statewide.
Okay. Last question, and thank you for your time. I threw it around, why not back to school now? At the high schools?
Maybe Dr. Washer would like to answer that one.
I've already
There
talked
was
to
an
Dr.
attempt at one time to do that.
I already talked to Dr. Washer about it.
Backfired on us.
Maybe at the high schools it might work, I could see where the elementaries and the middle schools it might not, maybe at the middle schools. But when you have parent to parent, parent to teacher, but the high schools where you have a collective group, if we could maybe try.
Yeah.
I'd love to help you with, I mean, I like to look at schools with similar backgrounds and see what they're doing. Because I think this is a very important document, and I think it's missing a critical piece.
I agree. Yes.
But
I
thank you.
would love to work with you on getting it involved and to like back to school nights or open house and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You know, Ms. Porter, that might work well at the high school level. We did try it at grade school.
I don't think it would work though.
And it didn't work well because the teachers had a lot they wanted to
Yeah,
talk
they
to
did.
the parents about. So that took up that
I
time.
was thinking of maybe high school, not elementary, maybe something new, we get more critical math.
Yeah, I hope you can come up with something on it. I've been to a couple of the meetings and, you know, at one point we had more board members there than we did parents.
So that's a bad thing for that. Thank you very much.
That's my comments.
That's my experience also, Courtney, on the high school level, that when you have the open house, what parents are you gonna see there?
Well, hopefully everybody. I'm gonna go with the half full.
You're gonna see the parents that support their students. You don't see the parents that, you know, don't support them, or they have other jobs and they have single parents. So when you have the open house, here comes all the students you don't wanna talk to, you wanna talk to the other guys that are, you know.
Maybe we should supply childcare for them at the open houses and back to school nights and things like that. Thank you so much. You're very helpful.
Okay, any other comments from the board?
Please, I gotta tell you, your reports over the years have continued to improve, and this is the best so far. This is really nice. I like it a lot. I love to see that survey results. My question is, what kind of response on that survey did you get from staff?
How did I know you might ask that question? I do have that information. We received over 1,500 staff responses.
Now, I'm impressed by that. That's great. Good
And
job.
we received over 15,000 student responses.
Wow, that's good.
Awesome. That's
Well,
good.
you know, I mean, that speaks a lot for the survey results then. And when you go through there, you got some great survey results.
That's some really good information
Yeah,
for us to look at and think about, yes.
right.
And we will be doing our parent survey results at open houses. So I think the first one starts in March, the first open house. So the parent survey will be out for parents to complete.
Great. Well, this looks really good. I want to tell you something that I learned on Facebook. Yes, I prowl around on Facebook. There were some teachers or our friends that were concerned about some safety issues and the number of SROs. I just want to say that now while we're talking about the LCAP, because that could be an LCAP issue. Do we need to increase that? And how do we look at SROs and jobs and that kind of thing? Maybe there's a different version of an SRO. I don't know. So that might be something we want to look at. I'm going to bring it up again during the safety issue as well. But anyway, great job. Thank you very much.
Okay, is that, any other comments? Public, have any comments from public?
That's Mr. Neely Taylor.
I agree with the back-to-school night in elementary. That did not work because the amount of time for parents. But I think you're onto something about finding venues and how do we entice our parents out there. And I might disagree just a little bit with Mr. Nava. So if the only parents that show up are those that are more affluent,
My experience.
my experience sometimes also, but on my home site is not affluent. If you have a community liaison, if you have a bilingual staff member at your site that has that relationship, let's tap into that and make it more community-based, because not all of them can make it. My Needham parents, there's no way they're pushing their strollers over here to get to this meeting. And that's not, I mean, then you don't have that representation about what they feel is important. So I think you're right on, Mr. Porter, with let's look at doing this differently, and maybe a middle school or a high school and trying to get back to school night, but preface it with, we're gonna have a community meeting about, talking about where that money is being spent. I think that might be your hook. And we do look forward to our group's meeting with Ms. Kadowski.
Okay, any other comments? All right. Thanks, Ms. Katowski.
Thank you.
You are done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Actually, you're not. You got to come back a little later on. Okay. Okay, Mr. Khan, one-time monies or startup monies?
Thank you, President Connexted, members of the board, Dr. Washer. We bring back, I guess now a fourth report, but the second this semester on suggestions for use of one-time money. We have left the RBET recommendation the same at 30%. We've lowered Valley Robotics from roughly 2.4 million down to 2 million even. Increased STEM and/or CTE facilities or materials, 20% to 1 million, and then school furniture, fixtures, and equipment, or sometimes you hear the term FFE, to roughly 10%. I think it actually caps out to 9.91. We've also included budgets. I'll start with the RBET budget. Again, there's no change in our allocation recommendation, but we did add as future potential ongoing revenue Title I, Title II, or LCAP monies to replace the one-time monies once they're been fully used. And then I want to like to point out one thing on the Valley Robotics. In the budget presented, David? Let's look at DJ, the draft budget for the RBAT. So you'll note the potential revenue for as a future stream once the one-time monies have been expended. Would be the two categoricals plus LCAP. Can we go to the budget for the Valley Robotics next? The bottom two lines show the surplus that would be realized if this ADA actually is achieved. We call it enrollment, but it's calculated as ADA on this budget. So if Mr. Palmquist does realize 90 students the first year, 150 the next, and 240 in the third, approximately 257, 258 falls out the first year, 533 the next, and 502. All of those are monies that the board could redirect at that time. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments?
So let me, I do that one. That last point you made, so what you're saying is for the ADA, if it does go according to the enrollment plan, these are the dollars that would, the one-time funds that would actually come back and be available for us to redirect.
Correct.
Just want to make sure I got that.
You have comments?
I guess I have more.
You
Yeah,
do?
I do.
Okay.
On the one-time money that you have, the 30%, 50%, 20%, 10%, I'm okay with all but the first one, which is the ARBET. Now, I want to preface that by saying I'm 100% in support of the ARBET. I think that committee has done an absolutely phenomenal job. When we were in negotiations about ARBET, the board was told over and over that we have money to cover that. So my question is if we do have money to cover that, why are we using it on this? I would rather see more of the money channeled into instruction, because that's really kind of where the rubber hits the road, you know. So I'm a little confused as to why ARBET is still in there when we were told that the money is offset by other actions. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents. I do like all the other ones. I think that I would rather see more money go towards instruction. And that's really the only input I have on that document.
Can I talk about that just a
Yeah,
second?
sure.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. We said we were going to switch some things around. Now, I think what Mr. Khan has done here, I like what he's done. We are going to have to make some moves in order to be able to fund those suggestions. I mean, we're looking at the possibility of, we're going to build a teacher career path. We're going to put on X number of teacher specialists, and I say X number because we don't know how many there are. At one point I envisioned hundreds of those. In order to bring the help, the assistance for teachers closer to the school site. So we can't just turn that switch on and do that and at the same time just eliminate other things. So we need to have some space in there. We're going to be funding it a little bit more in the beginning as we build this. We say, if you look at some of these suggestions by the ARBET, these jobs are not easy. I mean, there's some stringent requirements on there. I don't think you're going to get a lot right off the beginning. So we're not saying, I think Mr. Khan's not saying spend that money right now. It's like set that aside. And if we spend it, it'll move us to that point that we want to be. But the board will approve everything that goes forward. Am I correct in that? And if it's not spent on this, if we don't have to spend it on that, then we can come back again and what are we going to spend it on? But at this point, it gives us a working point to start to go in and go. We don't know where we're going to be yet because it's still got to be negotiated. Negotiations are 26th. Okay. So that's when it begins. Now, hopefully we can move through this fairly quickly and what are you smiling about, Amy? Hopefully we can get through this fairly quickly. But
It'll be a breeze.
It'll be a breeze. Now, this is a really, it's a complicated process. There's a lot to work out. So I think at this point, just reserving that money, I think is a good idea.
So let me see, when you were explaining it, I think a different picture popped into my head. This is not saying that this money is going to be spent on those teachers that are in those positions right away, but this money is helping us get them to those positions.
Over a 3-year period.
Over a 3-year period.
Right.
Okay, I'm sure some of it will be mixed in with the pay incentive, but I was kind of missing the picture, I'm guessing, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that this money is now available to get them to those positions.
Right. And we're going to see how that's going to, what it's going to look like. A lot of it's going to come out of negotiations. We start talking about numbers and that kind of thing.
And, like I said in the beginning, I think the ARBET has a lot of really positive things, and I'm just really impressed by that committee. the report they did over when we were at Lincoln Tech, wow, that was,
Yeah.
there were so many things that they identified, resolved, and brought forward. It was great. I now understand what you're talking about. I have a better picture of it. I thought it was very isolated, and it was just when a teacher hits those checkpoints.
So-
It was that incentive
Right.
monies, but it's more than that.
And it's the idea that as this is to cover the RBIT costs as they go up, but we talked about shifting the other, so it's gonna go like
That's
that.
what I was referring to.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I got it. Thank you. That's clear.
Any other comments?
Mr. Khan, what's the status of our facilities and planning fund?
The Facilities and Planning Fund?
Yeah, our facilities fund.
Fund 40. Approximately 4 to 5 million free reserves. I think we show about 9 total.
And then,
But we also have a big set aside in the assignments for safety and security. Technically, that's a facilities fund as well.
I know at one point, this one-time money, that some of it was going to replenish some of that.
Yes.
And how does that leave us if we don't do that?
I think we'll be fine. I mean, again, we have a very large assignment in safety and security that will be divvied up. We probably are going to have to use a good portion of that to pay for the Houston Cerna move. That should still be enough to cover all of the items that were originally listed on the initial one-time money recommendation back in October or September, I believe. And then on top of that, we have routine restricted maintenance money. That's a statutory 3% a year. That's over $10 million per year for the slurry coats and the roof. And then on top of that, we've got another, at this point, $260 million left in Measure U, which will offset a lot of those future facility needs throughout the district as well. So the only thing I would say I'm concerned about going forward, especially with the Measure U build, is we mentioned the FF&E, the fixtures, furniture, and equipment. There really isn't budget in Measure U for those items, and I know once we get these classrooms built, they're not going to want to put the 1880s furniture back into them, so, but we'll figure something out.
This 10% on the fourth bullet point, would that help towards any of that?
It will, but it won't cover all of it. I'm told by purchasing right now, a single student work desk or workstation could cost us better than $200. So it's going to be expensive putting new furniture past it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
As much as we can.
Okay.
Mr. Other comment?
Oh, a couple of questions about RBET, and I agree with what was said by my colleague. It is a wonderful program. So you're allocating roughly $500,000 each year, is that correct?
Not that smooth, but yes.
Yeah. What happens, again, this is just my rough understanding, being relatively new to the board and so forth. That is to cover the learning specialist, is that correct?
It's to cover every item in the RBET presentation from December.
So that would incur also the mentors and everybody right out the gate?
Yes, sir.
So $500,000 would cover all of that the first year?
Well, I agree with Mr. Neely. I don't think the thing will get ramped up to 100% of what was presented. And even in the December presentation, it was staged across 3 different years.
Right.
So the first year is not $500,000.
Right. Now, I had some just general, I've read the RBET and I'm trying to figure it all out. Is it true that a learning specialist has to do that before they can move into the next step in RBET and then eventually become a mentor, or?
That hasn't been negotiated yet.
That has not been negotiated? Okay. So then that's an item that'll be brought up later. Okay, thank you. So then basically this is seed money.
If it's needed, yes.
It's seed money. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Comments? Public comments?
DJ, could you, I think it's on the following page. Is that the RBET one? Yeah, there you go, thank you. A couple of questions to the chair, to Mr. Khan if possible. Can you explain where you have certificated outlined teachers, 1920, 2021, what is that reference to? Is that step and column?
Those are just the dollar amounts straight out of the December RBET report.
Can you tell me for what exactly? The 109, then the next year the 242?
Is it possible to go back to the report and refer directly to it?
Michelle, that's straight out of the RBET report. The one that they delivered in December, that they had those figures.
I understand that members of the RBET did get some figures from Mr. Khan. I'm asking for clarification as to specifically when looking at this breakdown, the teacher line, sub-line, one administrator going across. Can you tell me what is that 109 for teachers for? Because I don't know that necessarily that was broken down in that piece.
It was not, but in essence, my understanding is those are the stipends.
The stipends for the teachers who are teacher specialists as they are looking at rolling out each,
Yes.
instead of all at once doing a three-year rollout. So that would be the teacher, and the sub is for those that would then be going to watch or see those teachers? Is that my understanding?
In the first year, it could be the specialist going to classroom teacher's classroom to co-teach or whatever the specialist, or it could be vice versa where the classroom teacher
Is going, okay. So with that knowledge, I know that these are, as I believe you just told Mr. Porter, this is everything having to do with RBET. So this is the technology platform for the evaluation system.
That's the 7,000 per year.
And so that would be in the total, and everything covered in RBET, the first year would be 294,900, correct?
Correct.
And then rolling out. So when we're looking at a 3-year rollout with one-time monies, I look back to our previous board reports on one-time monies, and I heard a lot about safety. And in these reports, there was a lot about safety. And what you're looking at here is using one-time funds for ongoing for a position, ongoing for step and column, ongoing for the platform. And yet I heard a lot last year about safety. And as we'll talk about safety in a later report, I think there are still concerns about safety at school sites. And when we're talking about people should be built into an ongoing budget, as I believe, instead of taking this for a short time and then figuring out where are we going to pay for it later. Shouldn't it be built into our budget that this is what we're funding personnel, technology, sub, all of that within the budget, instead of this lump sum, we're going to do this for 3 years and hopefully we'll figure out how to fund this later. As one-time funds, when we're looking at one time to put up key codes at a site where it's a more secure entry, where monitors are moved so staff can see who is around the building. Any comprehension of what I think it first initially came out as, and I think they've done a fabulous job. I just think that how we're funding this with one-time dollars, with all of these other things that have been discussed as important, I think it should be funded differently. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other comments?
I have
Okay.
a fast one.
Okay.
Hello, Jen Castle, Tokay, and I'm on the RBET committee. And I've spoken to the board before about, first of all, I really appreciate how much everybody likes RBET, because we like RBET a lot too. And we've done a lot of work, as you know, and we'd really like to see it flourish. I mean, it has the potential to do wonderful things in this district, I think. I think there's a certain concern, there's confusion, and I worry about that a little bit. I know it's going to negotiations, and I just want to make sure, you know, I don't know if it's possible to have a committee member be a part of the negotiations to help clarify some of these design features that there has certainly been some confusion about, and this money is part of it. We're not even sure, you know, is it step and column? I don't know that that's really even been clarified at this meeting. And that was certainly presented in December. That's part of that slideshow, I know that. So I am worried about the confusion. I'm worried, you know, we designed the 3 different mentoring positions to be kind of separate from one another too, and very purposely. And I've heard some confusion about that. And then lastly, I just worry, I continue to worry that we are going to dismantle the coaching spots in order to pay for this. And nobody's really said that, but I came up here a few months ago to say the same thing, that RBET never intended to overshadow that important role in this district, that we really saw RBET as running parallel to the coaching program so very necessary, and we have great coaches in this district. So I just want to continue to kind of bang on that drum a little bit, that was never our intention, and that I think that would be a bad mistake. So I understand your dilemma as far as having to find money to pay for it. I get that. I go to those LCAP meetings. I know money is very, very tight. So I don't envy your spot there of having to find the dollars. But I just would like to encourage you to be very careful and deliberate. And, you know, we don't want to mess up a good thing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Khan. Okay, I don't see Mr. McGregor out there.
Mr. McGregor is on his way to LA for an unexpected trip.
Are we skipping this report, or is someone else going to take over?
I can present the report for you.
Okay, thanks.
Every year, school sites develop safety plans, so this is presented to you in report form at this time. There was one school that was left off the list. That is Silva, so that has been given to you in hard copy. I believe there may be one in the back if the public wishes to view that. This is report only at this time, so you don't need to make a decision, but we are asking that you include Silva in the next phase, which would come back for action.
Any comments?
Yes. There's been, Michelle brought this up earlier, and Ron had talked about it, Mr. Freitas as well. There's more to school safety than just locks and cameras and that kind of thing. I've been in contact with some teachers from Bear Creek who are concerned about the school safety on site for the kids and for the staff. And we've also had some questions about that at other sites as well. We need to listen to the folks who have these issues. Now, I would propose that we actually bring, this is a report right now, but we're gonna have to accept it to a vote, right, to an action item? All right. I think we need to listen to some of the people from the sites who have these concerns about safety. And we need to understand that better. And it's a great time because, like I said, the LCAP is here. So if we're going to try to put some money into it, then maybe we need to do that. I would like to see one more iteration. I'd like to see us table this right now, come back as a report item again, and let the people know who want to speak about this, to come and speak about it, and then bring it back. You don't want them to come speak when it's an action item. We want to get it now, so if we have to change it, we can change it. And you know what, I started looking through these things, and after about the third one, I'm going like, these sure look alike, you know? It's like a boilerplate, you know?
There are requirements that they have to
Right.
follow.
So we need to look inside of that, though, at the thing. So I'd say that we bring this back. That's a suggestion.
Comment, Mr. Connect?
Any comments? Okay.
Yeah, I agree with George. I'm shocked I'm saying this, but I agree with George that it's so important to have the stakeholders, shareholders involved. I can tell you that there was an incident at Tokay recently, and the teachers were never received an email from site on what happened. So they were answering questions without any knowledge. And that kind of bothered me a lot. That happens a lot. Plus at Tokay right now, they're still experiencing errors with their bells, their over-the-comm system. They can't get information out to teachers. And as George said, Ms. Neely said, you know, every school has its own community. Every school has their own issues. And I think, I would like to see more input as well. I agree, I second the motion that we table this and get more input from the people that are actually there. I read through these too, and I agree, it was just boilerplate.
Isn't this actually essentially just a skeleton plan for everybody? I mean, you have to have something to work off of.
They are following the legal requirements.
Okay.
Comment.
Yes.
I echo exactly what my two colleagues on either end have been saying. Yeah, I was on school site council for years when my kids were going to school, and the school safety plan was like 6 pages. Things have changed. Wow, the state loves paper. There's a huge difference between signing off the boxes and kind of a boilerplate template kind of thing, which that's okay to do because it makes the site kind of look at things. But then that doesn't bring up some very individualized things. The people who are on the campus really are the only ones that know that campus, in and out. And some of those things have been brought forward through our Measure U conversations with the remodel and rebuild of Lodi High School. There were some ideas that came forward that the architects thought were great, but the people who are actually on the campus said, no, we don't want to repeat this. I don't want to say the item because it's a weakness in the system. So it's really important to listen to those people. I wholeheartedly agree. After going through these, it's like, seriously, that's a lot of pages. So anyway, that's it. Same thing with what they said. We need to really embrace the feedback that comes to us and critically look at it because, again, every school is different.
Sure.
And so,
Would you like to
So I
bring
do-
back as another report item?
probably, you know, I think that this is in fact, you know, something we have to have, but exactly what everybody was saying, there probably should be another page that the people at that site actually read. This is, you know, for just everybody, this is general. So if you really want to give tools to teachers and administrators, I think you have to have something site-specific. You know, you might have several sites be almost identical, but Julia Morgan and Bear Creek share a boundary line. That could be a certain, you know, if there's an active shooter, there might be something that Julia Morgan would have to do differently than somebody at some other school. So maybe some more consideration to that kind of stuff, probably. Any other comments?
I'm guessing almost like this is fine, and I don't know if those things have to be into this. Are we thinking they could actually be like separate by site?
I think
as to
so.
what they identify? I think it would help us to just, here's a quick sheet of identified problems at school X. In addition to this, I mean, is that something how you could see, or do you want it actually in here?
When you, I'm sorry, Mr. Heverly, members of the board, when you say identify problems, what?
Or I should say concerns?
I would almost be hesitant to have a public document with safety holes.
Well, that's why I didn't, that's why I was purposeful, didn't say what was identified, because it's an identified weakness, and I'm not gonna say that in public.
Right.
I mean, that's what I did, so.
But I think I'm hearing the gist of what you're saying.
If it's internal, I think it would go much better. Yeah, so you don't wanna keep everything of a danger nature low.
Keep some of the cards close to your vest.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
We
Sure.
should hire an individual to ramp that.
Yes, we do have a consultant
Yeah,
that has been
consultant.
working on these and the new laws that come out. There've been some new
Revised
laws.
in 18, October 18, so we need another revision now.
Mr. Farley? Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
I just have a question. To me, it's twofold. We have the comprehensive school plan, safety plan for each school, but do we have everything identified if it works? Because it's great on paper, but if the bells, the whistles, everything's not working on each campus, do they go parallel, or are they completely, in your eyes, separate issues?
Mrs. McFarland, members of the board, I think those are separate because when something is identified as not working properly, that goes through a different process with whether it's M&O or facilities to get that fixed. So it wouldn't show up in these documents.
I don't expect on the report, but can we have like a mirror of what is like a to-do list for each campus? In other words, the safety plan is up and running.
I think that Mr. Khan has a lot of that already documented when he presented a few months ago on some one-time money projects. Bells and jive systems and gates and fences were listed in there, so by site. So I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be difficult to put together.
We already have a document put together on projects we're currently working on. So today we even signed off on Tokay's PA and intercom system, so that's a $62,000 wreck that just went through today.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
On page 3 of the boilerplate reports is one page that's titled Current Status of School Crime. And I was wondering if we tallied these district-wide. And if a spreadsheet could be prepared so that we would know what type of crimes were committed, for example, in our high schools, what crimes were committed in our middle schools, or maybe in our elementary schools. Maybe a comprehensive summary when we bring this back for a report item.
Sure.
And then we would also give us data for our decision-making as to where to spend our safety dollars.
Okay.
Any comments from the public?
It just so happens that Mitch Slater and I met about a week ago, and I said, "Oh, that's not coming up on the next board meeting," and he said, I think it may. Leah has some concerns on, yes, I believe this is a template and a form, and it is, as someone, this is where you check off the boxes, I've done this. Here's our concern. One, how does a new teacher who started in November know what the safety procedures are? How are they oriented? How are they caught up on the safety issues if the drill happened only one time every other year? What we would like to see, and what we hear is happening from site to site, is different. What one principal may do by sitting around a table with all of the stakeholders and identify those holes, those weaknesses in the perimeter, in solving the solution, they all have a part in that conversation. Where at some sites, it is merely a sheet typed up and handed to them and never discussed. There is a huge disparity between what happens between Site A and Site B and how it's communicated to, and I'm just speaking teachers alone right now. We have had incidents within the last few months that I could best describe as chaotic. New members had no idea of what safety protocols were for the incident and really broke what you should do. Why? Because they were never trained or informed on what to do. And unless we're training our teachers as they come in and throughout the year and every year, not every other year, I think it's really important that we find out what to do. And I believe these surveys, plans, are a check off of what they've done. But I think maybe in reflection, what we need to do is go back, and maybe it is a survey for Tokay to say, hey, what could we do to improve? Do you see any weaknesses? Maybe fire drill versus a brand new teacher who has no idea what to do in a bomb drill. So those are very different. So I don't know that accepting the plan, not accepting the plan makes any difference. I think the bottom line is, what are we doing to secure our campuses and make sure that every single, and I'm speaking on the teachers' behalf, teachers know what to do and have had a conversation at every site about, well, in this scenario, what do I do? You know, and I don't want to publicly say what my scenario is and what the weaknesses that I may see, but I think it definitely needs to be brought to the attention, and I believe Mitch was.
Which involves,
yes.
They do that. So they have like a faculty council
I don't know about faculty council, but there are faculty members on school site council.
at every school.
That's my understanding.
Do you understand?
I haven't been to those meetings, but that's my understanding.
Okay, I was just curious if there was more input. I know in the old days, they used to have faculty councils. I know Dutch Williams started that at Tokay. It was very effective. Something like that could be helpful for the high schools at least, probably all the way through. Dr. Washer?
I'm sorry, it's just that Mr. Porter, members of the board, I just want to say Title I would have a requirement for school site council.
Right.
The structure of what the other schools might look a little different.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pomplin.
I'm sorry, we could have Mr. Palmquist just for a minute and a half.
I can go 45 seconds. President Knackstead, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Just to clarify, I think some of this came out. Senate Bill 187 is a list of requirements, and they do read sort of boilerplate that. And so what's before you now is a compliance issue that before March 1st, we have to present to our board that we conducted these compliance things. What has come out is a much broader conversation about safety, about training our staff, and those are things that we definitely want to explore. We've had some really productive conversations with Leah. I know that both Mr. McGregor and I have already gotten to principals. We are starting to collect what is the current status of how we train staff, and then talk about consistency, alignment, and how do we put in a floor that is acceptable to everyone. We met with Mr. Slater today, actually, and that Senate bill is actually changing. It's going to include a public forum opportunity and some other things that we discussed tonight. So stay tuned. Those requirements are changing. I think it will help us tackle some of these issues.
This is a requirement you need tonight.
What's that?
This is something you need right away.
We just need to present it to you and note that we have completed the requirements of Senate Bill 187.
Essentially, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, these safety plans are not. They are complete and here for you by the law, but safety is a work in progress for sure.
Next, probably should have led with that.
Quick question.
Yes.
Dr. Washer, does every site have a site safety committee? Is that?
Mr. Hamlin, members of the board, I don't know if they have something called just that. They may use a leadership team, they may use other kinds of groups. There is a district safety committee, and there's representative from various stakeholders on that group, and Mitch Slater runs that.
Does that meet on a regular?
It meets on a regular basis. I don't know if it's quarterly. Quarterly. But the school sites will have some avenue to discuss safety.
And the only reason I bring that up is how we train our people, whatever their position is within the district and their responsibilities at an emergency, is really critical, because you will behave how you're taught. And if you're not even trained at it, you will most likely be dysfunctional, which is not a good thing to do during a crisis. So anyway, I just wanted to training is very important, and it is up to, let's say a police agency runs a drill. They're going to learn some things. They're not going to make that public. They're going to leave it within their agency. Just like fire, when we critique something, it stays within us to improve our training. So I look at those kinds of things that are identified in the training and weaknesses that maybe at a drill, that comes forward.
Right.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the revisions of the board bylaws. It's like 3 of them, I think.
Mr. President, members of the board, these are technical updates based on changes in law, cleanup language, recorded this time.
It's not an action item.
Correct.
It was a bad joke. It's 9:32.
Okay, yeah, I'm watching the review. We start 14 minutes late. Okay. Any comments from the board? Public? Okay, good. Moving on to board revisions from the Curriculum and Instruction Department.
And maybe we can go just as fast.
Very brief.
Very, very brief. We have 2 policies. One, the instructional media materials review policy is being revised to remove the law that edits that we made when the budget crashed and we had to keep our textbooks for like 17 years. We're now removing that because we have money for purchasing, and the state has moved forward with the 7-year review cycle. So that's what the edits are for. And the last one is for student records, to make sure that, we are in compliance with not providing information that could be requested for us for our students of immigration or citizenship. So we're just making sure that that law matches the law that has been passed.
Okay. Sounds good. Comments? Whoa. Okay. And yes. Further?
No. He said no.
Board advisory?
Right, that's the next thing. Board advisory committee reports and anything that may want to be added to the agenda.
Report from the legislative committee. You remember we passed a proclamation supporting the transparency for charter schools, where the charter schools would have to be subject to the Brown Act.
Yes.
That was ignored, and it's been re-brought up again. And the chart, I just got notice, the Charter School Transparency Bill passed the Senate Education Committee on fast track to Governor Newsom's desk. So it looks like that will.
Well, that's good. That's good news.
We are new governor.
That's good news. That's good. Any other reports? Anything on the agenda?
I move we adjourn, sir.
I don't hear a second yet.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? You're out of here.
Always second.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Okay, and that's not bad.
don't have